I'm going to give you guys the history of the word wigger, starting with what it actually is. So obviously it's a slang term, and it's not meant to be super nice, and it's used to describe a white person who emulates the mannerisms, language, fashion, and tastes stereotypically associated with urban black culture. So specifically hip-hop and rap culture. Obviously the word's a blend of W for white and then a very bad racist word. I didn't make it up. Don't get mad at me. And according to my extensive research on the subject, the term first emerged in the late 70s, early 80s, but got more popular in the 90s and 2000s. It was more commonly used because of the explosion of hip-hop music. The 1830s is where we're going to start off. When I was doing my intensive research on how did this all start for the white man, it led me to something that I couldn't avoid, which wasn't what we know as a wigga. It was actually the complete polar opposite. It was blackface comedy from 200 years ago. Just extremely racist against black people. However, the idea behind this being involved in the timeline is that this is when white people obviously made a distinction in cultural differences. So they were already becoming aware that different cultures did different things amongst the people that were living with them. So no, we're not gonna see the wigga here, but it's important to understand that this is kind of when the blackface stuff started, and when you make fun of things, a lot of people at some point, no matter what you're making fun of, are going to become fans of it, or even at least become exposed to it, and therefore look into it more. Now fast forward about 100 years, in the 1920s through 40s, the jazz age, great times, swing, all that shit, Great Depression. That's somebody else's video about the Great Depression. But what I have here for you in the history of wigga is white youths were flocking to places like Harlem. And we're going to use Harlem obviously as an example here, mental image. They would go there dressed in zoot suits, and they started to adopt African American slang, which some of you may or may not know, at the time was called jive. Now on top of that, they also started imitating the mannerisms of black jazz musicians. And this is actually where we get the first official wigga in history. Now maybe not the modern version of what we're expecting, we'll get into that in a second, but there was a Jewish American clarinetist. His name was Mesro. He took this LARPing so far that he moved to Harlem, married a black woman, God bless, not illegal. He declared himself a voluntary negro. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that, so I'm just going to spell it out. It's kind of on the fence, I don't know. It's for historical purposes, whatever. So he also wrote in his autobiography that he felt that he had literally crossed racial lines, which is just wild. I'm not like some snowflake who's going to sit here and cry about cultural appropriation, but that's kind of crazy, especially in the 1920s. I think it'd be crazy today to say like, I'm definitely a black guy if you're just a white dude, but he certainly felt that way. That's kind of your first wigga, Mez over here. Now moving into the 1950s, there was an interesting piece of literary relevance pertaining to the history of the word wigga. In 1957, an author by the name of Norman Mailer wrote a controversial essay, and it was titled The White Negro. Again, don't know if I could say it. So the writing was about kind of hipsters and what was called beatniks at the time of the 50s. They were white bohemians who had abandoned the kind of traditional white middle class American culture in order to adopt the language, jazz music, and social attitudes of African Americans. Mailer had described these people as those who decided to subvert their race by embedding themselves in black culture. So even though we had Mez super hardcore LARPing in the 20s, it was still a while until we got to the modern day version of a wigga, but supported by this idea that people were coming around to their cultural lifestyle and they were starting to like it. So that now we come into what you guys know and where we're going to find the first wigga. Let's go 80s, 90s, okay? It's just kind of agreed upon generally because we can't find who the first wigga was. You guys have them at your school right now, so you understand that they exist and people don't know about them. But the first popular one was Vanilla Ice, and that's his stage name. His real name's Robert Van Winkle, which is just a hilarious fun fact, but you know, the guy who made the song Ice, Ice Baby. So to support him commonly being considered the first ever modern day wigger is that in 2010 there was a documentary that came out called Blacking Up, hip-hop's a remix of race and identity. And in that they actually explicitly named him as the original wigger. And he also took this in a direction that popularized it for kind of the wrong reason, which was he claimed that he had an urban street-tested upbringing.
I am from the streets, and if you can't see that I'm from the streets, then you're blind, because the majority of white people, you know, cannot dance, and they don't have much rhythm, you know? And
whereas he did not, which is a commonly associated principle of the modern day wigger as we know it. You see, a big part of the LARP is that, you know, you're a 14-year-old kid and you like rap music. You heard 50 Cent, and you want to live like that. You want to be a tough, cool guy. But you didn't grow up like 50 Cent. You didn't get shot 9 times. You didn't sell drugs. You didn't do any of the hard shit, but you want to be taken seriously. That's why it's LARP, and that's why you're a wigga. It's kind of become the thing. It's code switching, it's cultural appropriation at this point. It's not just the love for the game, even though it kind of is. A lot of people don't see it like that, mostly because people lie. It'd be one thing to just be a fan and want to wear a do-rag. It's another thing to sit there and say, like, I grew up in the hood, I'm a tough guy, just like you, when you didn't go through that stuff. It pisses people off. And that leads us into the modern day wigga. Where we are now has seen the evolution from Vanilla Ice into Eminem. Eminem was a more popularly accepted version of a wigga. Now obviously he got a ton of shit for what he did too, but some people now consider him the best rapper of all time, so how's that for cultural appropriation? Fuck, it really worked out for the guy. But you see, he was a necessary step in the evolution of what we know as a wigga. And in terms of history, he paved the way. He took it from Vanilla Ice, who was somebody who wasn't a part of the culture, who wanted to be, to somebody who was raised in that culture. Eminem did not have an easy upbringing. He was raised in a bad part of Detroit. He became a rapper, and that set the bar. He continued to push it into more modern eras. Now you have guys like Post Malone making White Iverson, who have retracted their wigga title and become full. I guess he went complete opposite, and now he's country. But you understand the point. It's not a bad gimmick anymore. People are becoming more accepting of it. There's still some people don't like it, but they're becoming okay with the idea of this small level of cultural appropriation. The thing about a wigga is you don't see them anywhere other than your middle school or at a gas station at 30 years old, or the off chance that he becomes famous from a good music video or something like that. You don't tend to see a wigger at your 9-to-5, $90,000 a year white-collar job at the office. They only exist in certain social quarters. However, the evolution from Vanilla Ice into Eminem to Post Malone has led us to where we are now in history, which is here, best exemplified by people like Timothée Chalamet. Now I understand he's an actor, he's a performer, he's just putting on a good show, but here he is in a rap video. Look at these cool dance moves. He's absolutely a wigga in this situation. This is part of his personality. This is who he thinks he is. The idea behind this in terms of historical wigginess is code switching. That's what people are doing now. Nowadays, people will say things like, I have a black friend, or my brother-in-law's black. It's a common thing in the modern day world. So what people end up doing is code switching. You see, after Timmy shot this music video, he went home to his Kardashian girlfriend and he wore a suit to the Met Gala like a nice little white boy. But then the next week, he was on the courtside floor of the Knicks game wearing baggy clothing. Do you think that his accent might have changed a little bit depending on who he was talking to and when? Yes, it absolutely did. That's what they do. That's just what happens now. And from this, the cultural element of it has gone overseas, and this is the last point that I'll make in the history of a wigga. Nowadays, what you're going to see overseas is the adoption of black culture. Look, black culture is pretty much running entertainment, in terms of music at least, worldwide, and they probably will forever. And it's because people that don't understand it also find it very interesting. Because they saw people like Timothée Chalamet, Post Malone, Eminem, Vanilla Ice adopt this moniker, adopt this idea of who they were based in black culture, you now have Japanese people overseas doing the same thing. Every single country has a rapper who acts and participates in what would be considered black culture, American black culture, not just sub-Saharan African culture. These guys are acting like hip-hop stars from New York. It's not that it's wrong, it's just what it is. This is where we are in terms of wigginess. There's always going to be the 30-year-old guy who's called a wigger who's not doing anything with his life. But then again, there's always going to be Japanese dudes across the world who are just like them that aren't famous. There's one guy in this music video that's famous. Everybody else, there's 40 fucking people in this music video, you'll see it here, that are dancing with him and acting like it, that are not famous at all. And this is a culture that they identify with. It's gone global. Now again, like I said, I don't care. This is the history of the word and idea of wigger. This is from the start. You know now how it started and how it finished and where it's going. It's just going to become more normalized. It's becoming a part of everyday life. Now, whatever you think about that is completely up to you in the comments section. But if you liked the video and you appreciate the effort that I put into it to educate you a little bit, consider subscribing. It actually, they say, oh, it really helps me out, but it's more of a motivation thing. It helps me know that I'm on the right path. If there's something I could have done better, please let me know. But other than that, thank you guys for watching. See you soon.